Hey, Carew. This is Sunday, July
30th.
30th, and I am currently riding in the camper van, and we are heading to Canada in Maine. So if you look out the front window, this is our view. I don't know if you can hear me when I turn this the other way, if the audio will pick me up. Just in case you couldn't hear me, um, this is one of my favorite stretches to drive on this cross-country trip. And so, of course, I'm letting Sarah drive it. Um,
So you can see it.
letting her drive it, notice. Um, but yeah, we're heading from Maine. We're going to spend the night a little bit south of Montreal tonight in a Walmart parking lot, which should be awesome. But I want to talk to you about the last couple of days because we left Menant. So actually, let's start with Friday. So we had to be out Saturday morning from Menant, but we ended up having Pete and Candy invited us over to their house for dinner. But they invited us. They said the elder people, which meant
Us.
me and Sarah and Deb, and not our children or grandchild. And it's funny because I commented that I remember like them inviting Melissa over, or I don't think I was ever there with your dad at Manon. Was I? Yes, I was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there were times when there was like the elders were having dinner and we weren't invited because we're the young whippersnappers. And now,
Small children.
yes, with small children. I'm sure it had more to do with small children than anything. But anyway, yeah, and the degree to which I enjoy the company of the generation above us, the older generation. I really, it just kind of struck me the last 3 days because we did that, which was lovely, and we had dinner with them, and it felt, just felt great. It felt natural. And then on Saturday, we drove. We had to clean out the place and got the kids on their way and everything, and then we headed up to New Hampshire, where we visited the homestead that was Sarah's grandfather's that he built, and her uncle Perry and his wife Joyce and a number of their kids live basically on that property. And Perry unfortunately passed away 2 months ago. He was 86, and was the last remaining sibling of Sarah's mother, so the last of that generation. And his wife, his now widow Joyce, is living in the house, and he has 3 daughters who live nearby, and they're significant. They're husbands and kids, if they're still that age. And so we've gone and visited them, Perry and Joyce. I mean, we've always thought of it as going to visit Perry and Joyce, but Perry's gone now, and we weren't sure we should go see Joyce so soon after his passing. They still haven't had the memorial service yet. That's happening in a couple weeks, I think. Unfortunately, I guess 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to make it to that. But we ended up spending some time with Joyce, which was good, and she cried quite a bit. We got to give her hugs and talk with her. But that evening, her kids came over, at least 2 of her daughters and their spouses, and a couple of the grandkids were over as well, and we hung out with them. And then we slept in the van on their property, and then had breakfast with Joyce. before heading to Portland, Maine, where we had lunch with the widow of Sarah's uncle Bob, her Aunt Anne. And Anne invited over her kids as well. One of her sons, Dick, and his wife Debbie were able to come over. But once again, we had lunch with them, and we ended up spending 3 hours there. And most of the time was just talking with Anne. And, about her experience in life and, where she is, and how things are going. Of course, a lot of it she's asking about our lives, so we talk about that. But it just struck me how much I enjoyed spending time with these folks who are, a generation older than us, and how that time is fleeting at this point. It's the amount of time that we're going to have with them is the number of times we're going to get to see them is limited. And we saw Perry last summer, and it's funny, like we got there last summer, and Perry was talking about how he had to, one of his grandkids was getting married. Is that right?
Yeah.
And so he has a sawmill on his, a small, like artisanal sawmill that he has, and he cut a bunch of lumber, cut a bunch of timber, and milled it into lumber and made 22 12-foot long tables for them to use at her wedding reception. And he went out and did all this himself. He cut down the trees, he drove the tractor, he milled the lumber, and then he made the tables. And this all happened like less than a year before he died.
Yeah. It was October. It
was last October. And there was, and we knew that his health was deteriorating, but it's amazing how quickly, a huge blessing that he didn't linger, he didn't suffer. He was suffering from some sort of iron deficiency, and he just managed to like all of a sudden his body couldn't absorb iron anymore, and within a few weeks he was gone, and he just lost strength. And it's interesting because they've got this place in rural New Hampshire, and they've got a nice house set in the woods, and they set up his bed so he could look out the window, kind of in the living room. And in the time he was there, in the few weeks he's there, they saw a bear come by, they saw a moose and a baby moose, a moose and her calf, I guess, walk by, and they have all these pictures, and all the deer and the birds and the bunnies, and just really, I can't imagine a much better way to die than that, honestly. Everyone talks about wanting to die at home, and Perry got to die at home, and his kids came and saw him, and his wife was there with him, and anyway, it was just really nice. I mean, I don't find it at all depressing to talk about the deaths. It's part of what we're going through, and it's just wonderful to see all these people in their 80s, all these octogenarians who are interested and engaged in life and are fun to be around, and enriching my life. So anyway, that's all I wanted to talk about as I drive through rural Maine. I'll upload this as soon as I have any real signal and have the ability to do so. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. Talk to you soon.